Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Suway.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jel mo to nga andil mahalis. Hello?
Bisul mo fine.
What?
Bisul mo fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills, and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mo fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
But first this morning, the lingering pain of a brutal 22-year dictatorship. According to human rights defenders, the regime led by the exiled former Gambian dictator Yahya Jammeh from July 1994 to January 2017 was bloody, marked by systemic acts of torture, extrajudicial killings, arbitrary detentions, and enforced disappearances directed at all forms of opposition. Among the crimes for which he is blamed is the massacre of more than 50 migrants bound for Europe from African countries in July 2005. And the broad term African countries is used because at least one of the victims was a Gambian national, although most of the victims were from one West African country, Ghana. Others came from Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Togo, Senegal, and Congo. So on the 20th anniversary this year of that crime against humanity, Coffee Time welcomes Isaac Mensah and Adama Conte, whose father and husband respectively were unfortunate to be among the gruesomely murdered. They are joined by Mariam Cisse of WAVE, not the Coffee Time WAVE. This WAVE is the women's NGO formerly known as the Women's Association for Victims Empowerment. Isaac and Adama, welcome to West Coast Radio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, since the departure of the former exiled dictator Jammeh, most Gambians only reflect on his atrocities on July the 22nd, the anniversary of his 1994 military takeover. But for the past 20 years, every day has been a July 22nd because of what happened to your father, Isaac, and husband, Adama. Starting with you, Isaac, tell us more about the last 20 years, how you've lived your life. How old are you now?
I am 33 years old now.
So you were 13
yes.
when your father died here in the Gambia?
Yes.
What were you told about the incident?
Okay, first of all, let me use this opportunity to thank you for hosting us on your radio, and then to WAVE for giving us the opportunity for the world to hear our voice. In 2005, it was on March 18th, I was getting ready going to school, and my mom told me that my father had set off to Kumasi. He was a cocoa purchasing clerk, so he went to Kumasi to take money from his company, which is the Kapa Cocoa Limited back in Ghana, to come and pay his cocoa farmers. So I was expecting to see him in the evening, because most often when he left for that operation, he do come back in the evening. So I waited for weeks, for months, for years, and he had not returned. So I asked my mother, why is he not coming back? And he told me that no, he left for Senegal to do a transit because one of his cousins were in Italy. So he told him to do a transit in Senegal and then meet him in Italy. So when my dad got to Senegal, he used to call my mom, and they were talking, having chats, lovely chats. By then I was young, so I was not involved, and the telecommunication networks was not that rampant in our country. So when he started doing that, he left in March 18th. So somewhere around July 15th, he spoke with my mom, and he told my mom he will be returning in August because the trip as planned did not happen. So he will come back and then take over his cocoa business and then operate it. So we were expecting him in August. And we heard that bad news on Radio Mercury when Martin Chere, so the then survivor, but now we've been able to identify additional people. Yes. So Martin Chere was narrating the story on Radio Mercury, and we got to know of it. So that is how far we got to hear of the information. So we've been battling with it psychologically.
When you heard the information for the first time, what was the reaction at home? Especially, from your mother.
Yes, it was like, no, he wasn't part of it because the incident happened in the Gambia.
Your mother was in denial?
Yes.
Okay.
The incident happened in Gambia. My father was in Senegal. So it was, no, he wasn't part of it because how come he's not, what is he going to do in Gambia? So we did not admit it until Martin even came to our hometown and we showed pictures of my dad to him for him to confirm whether he was part of the trip. We showed it to him and he confirmed that he was part of it. But still, my family members, his father, his mother, my mom, and other cousins, siblings of his, were denying it, that he can't die like that. Yes. So it was until 2021 when is it Malik Jatta or Jallo, when he was confessing before the TRRC, and he said one man gave him 100 euros. He told him he was going to die and he was of no need of that money, that he should take it. And when he took it, someone shot him from afar.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So and when my father was setting off, my mom told me he sealed euros in his trousers and in his boxers and in his shirts, and he asked him why he was doing that, and he told him on the way they might be attacked by armed men, and when he have that in his trousers and in his boxers, they can't take that, but they will take the money on him. So when is it Jallo or Jatta, when he said he took that 100 euros from him, it was then that we admitted that he was part of those who were massacred in 2005.
All right, I'll give you a break now. We're very sorry for what happened to you. Let me just say that Adama has decided to speak in Mandinka because she says, as a Mandinka, she wants her story to be heard by people who speak her language. And since I don't have any Mandinka to question her with, so I'm going to question her using Wolof. Adama ñu ngi la dalal ci jotaay bi di fàttale ko nag loo xam ne mu ngi la dal ndik sa jëkkër la dal ñaar fukki at ci gannaaw lan nga ñu mën a wax ci problème bi ak li dal sa jëkkër.
Assalamualaikum, may mo be konton na mbal tindu la mbal jayila kontano kan kana sija kan story sada min satin na banko molte nyina lay salon ko nyina keta jang sanji mwandi fula kuma so mbe we fanan konton na mbe tentu la baake mbe jayila because of ito le wulta
ñun ñu ngi wax ñaar fukki at waaye maa ngi dégg yaa ngi wax ñaar fukki at ak ñaar kon
be ñaar fukki at la dama jum sanji mwa because 2005
okay
anin sainte ma sanji mwa si men fono je wala ñenti ko 2005 July 23rd mbena bunkono le mbelare tilibulo ngaje mul dunta nan na bunkono yenke ma handcuff abulo koma ndebelare anata yen kuning wulta wala nyama ngam bungoje afata mul la mel yalon koy may uniforme do so ye bungo kono sach ndefintita banta ki jafaro kamala inata bungo kono sach ye bungo kono sach bitum fu inata finti biri fintita kordati yo membe so kono je akoy ko alkata minto iko ko bulan numana den inata ta ndol fana wulta tan nem fintita ndata anyini ndam folota kan finne station oto janin ka futa oto dron ate fango yo call kenan ala line oto akum felente nkata kairaba police station so nata kairaba police station tenne na la family den birin tata je nata famole ko alta mba bulalale mbeje rek after ya samba Banjul bitun tartawle up and down fon nata loyata bir ya murundi kairaba nata loyata loyaning tata je ikoy ba bella so nyanta bella lungu menna wolu ne ya samba o 2005 kono o yatara kono bentela 7 months mina bulala 8 months o kono woni saintema 20 years bilem ala areso 20 years te July 22nd la ye ganyanul muta 23rd dimanche lungu somanda a wulta akonte kata Banjul so atata Banjul o Banjul ta wala kata la arresté inana ta so kono
wa ñu ne mom lan la defoon be ñu war ko arrest
ati dal ay menke komen ka atelen ganyanul la agentoti ate men fuka atelen ganyanul la agentoti pour eta bagwe so biri wol nata inata fuko wol nata kulela ilafta ka kudeta leke pour kam Yaya Jammeh wulindi ala Mensah sirankan so yate kolle ikayene danku Westfield so atata o danku la Westfield ya muta
so mom lolo li won mom agent la won pour ñi migrants ñi buga demé back way bi
hade
okay all right let's now hear from Mariam. So Mariam, how have you been working with victims of Yaya Jammeh generally, but particularly those affected by this massacre?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Mariam JCC and I work with WAVE as the programs coordinator. So WAVE as an organization started to actually enhance the inclusion of women participation in the overall transitional justice process and victims in general. So since inception, we have been working with different victims across the country, different communities, different categories of victims, from witch hunt to enforced disappearance and extrajudicial killing, torture victims, victims of religious minority group, and others of gross human rights violation. So since we are talking about the 20 years of the massacre that happened here, of the West African migrants, WAVE actually was able to, because this is all part of the transitional justice process. So if they are not in the country, their voice are hardly in the loop of what is really, really happening. And for us to really have enhanced inclusion of those who were really, really affected, especially marking these 20 years, we actually found a need to actually bring them in the Gambia to come and share their audio, to engage in advocacy engagement, so that people would know that the fact that they are not here does not mean that they were not affected by this regime, that they were not affected by the past regime of the 22 years of what happened. Because 50 people from Ghana, we had from Nigeria, as you have said earlier, and others. So how do we ensure that they also get adequate reparations? How do we ensure that the support that they need for their families, how do we also ensure that they are actually compensated? Because we have outlined recommendations by the TRC specific for the killings of the West African migrants. How do we ensure that there is adequate implementation of this recommendation? How do we also ensure that whatever that they say, even when they go back, we can be able to still continue to push the advocacy messages? Because 20 years is not 20 days, it is not 20 months, it's 2 decades. So how much longer do we have to wait for this implementation? Some of the victims' family are dying, some are having deteriorating health conditions because of the economic hardship, and when someone actually loses a sole provider or someone who has been standing for their families, it's actually hard. And it's always a question of what should have been if this person is still around. So
you help the Ghanaians and the other non-Gambians affected to come to the Gambia to tell their stories.
Yes.
How do you work with people like Adama?
Yes, so Adama, we've been engaging with her. We actually do a lot of engagement from psychosocial support, where we have group therapy for victims. We have what we call the women support group across the different regions to actually strengthen survivor network. Because as a group, know that you're not alone. You have other people who are also whose rights were also violated, and that will actually give you a space to actually share your story and for you to be able to reclaim your agency and see how best we can be able to enhance their voices in everything that we do, because all our programmatic affairs in the office is all centered towards ensuring that victims are included in the overall transitional justice process, and also ensure that the implementation of the government white paper is also addressed, and that is why we are also working. Whatever that we do is also in line with the implementation to ensure that the TRC recommendations are actually implemented and victims actually have their voices out there.
Fantastic. On Wednesday, the 23rd of July, 2025, it's coffee time with Peter Gomez, and this morning we are talking to Isaac Mensah, whose father was a victim of the murder of West African nationals blamed on Yaya Jammeh, and also Adama Conte, whose husband, Lamin Tunkara, was perhaps the only Gambian victim involved in that incident. And if you can just go back to Isaac, for your mother, there'll probably never ever be closure, all right? But for you, I mean, 20 years after the incident, how, have you moved on? You were only 13. You're now a 33-year-old.
Yes, moving on. We can't forget his memories and the role he could have played when he was alive. Being a father, there is a whole lot of stuff that he could have done in our lives, because when he was living, I was somewhere in class 6, and my junior siblings were in class 4.
Are you his firstborn?
Yes, I'm the firstborn.
Okay.
So considering these factors, I have to grow up early, take the father role, because I was the firstborn.
Oh, wow.
So, and taking up the father role at that
early
tender age, it's brought a lot of burden on me. And then looking at how we do gather as family members during Christmas, and when we gather, everyone will be running through their parents, and they will be chatting and then having fun. When it got to that period, you see that you will be isolated, because you don't have no one to run to. You don't have no one to share your pains, your tears, your glories, your success stories. You just keep it to yourself, because the fellow is not around. But
where was your mother all this while?
My mom was there.
Okay. But staying at home, grieving at home?
Yes. Till now, she's not married. Till now, she's not married, because she has been waiting at her doorsteps to see her husband return.
She wakes up every morning believing that...
yes.
What was your dad's name?
He was Peter Mensah. Coincidentally, he bears the... Yes.
So your mother would wake up every morning believing that there would be a knock on the door.
On the door.
And if she opened, there would be Peter waiting.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But it has never happened.
Have you been able to complete your education? And if yes, with whose help?
Yes. Fortunately for me, you see, when my father was living, he paid a 1-year fee advance. I was in the 3rd term at our place. We call it, we have a term duration in the academic.
We have the same system.
Okay, okay. So he had paid that, and then pay an advance of 1 year for the JHS1, with the notion that when he got there, he could have paid the rest of the fees. So I completed that. When I got to the secondary school, during that period, my grandfather took over. He was taking care of me. So when I got to secondary school, fortunately for me, I had a Cocoa scholarship, and I used that to complete school. So when I got, unfortunately, when I completed, I had 2 of my exam papers cancelled.
Oh.
So I had to stay in the house. So someone who is a relative to a friend to my father came to the house, and I told him I narrated my story, and he said okay, he will help me, and he took me to another secondary school. And when I got there, the headmaster, upon seeing me and then hearing my story admitted me to rewrite. So I succeeded, and then when I was there, someone too heard my story, and he said, no, I will help you. So he recruited me into the local government service of Ghana. So when I got there, I compiled my salary, and I said my father had a vision of me being a great administrator, so I will pursue that goal. So I took care of myself from tertiary. I paid my fees, and it wasn't easy. Working and then paying fees. How will you take care of your siblings, your parents? It was tedious.
It was tough.
Yes,
it was tough. So you had public sympathy, at least from the
friends
and all of that.
Yes.
Oh, you were only 13.
Yes, 13.
Then 14. Then 15. Yeah. Then your peers.
Yeah.
Your playmates would have heard a thing or two on radio about your dad.
Yes.
Of course, the explanation from the Gambia would always paint your dad,
yes,
in a negative light.
Yes, that he was a mercenary.
Exactly. I mean, knowing how children can sometimes be very brutal in their jokes, were you ever taunted about?
Yes. At times when you get near, like when we were playing, they will say, "Oh, what are you coming here to do? We don't want you to come and then kill us." Oh. We've heard your father wanted to overthrow Yaya Jammeh, and he was arrested.
That must have been very painful to take. Yeah,
it wasn't easy. But you see, we had to put ourselves together, because in life, when you are not determined, every wind will blow you anywhere. So we did not let that put us down, because listening to that and hearing that could have deterred us from mingling among them and then pursuing our goals. But we were determined. And
with God's help,
yes,
you've come through.
Yes.
Well done. Ñu dem ci Adama fi mu nekk maa ngi doon laaj Isaac moom bi papaam di faatu mu ngi amoon rek fukki at ak ñetta yow nag sa jëkkër Lamin Tunkara bi moo gaañu mu ngi fekk yaa ngi biir xale bi léegi war naa am yaakaar naa ñaar fukki at. ñana la dimbale gannaaw bu sa jëkkër génne àddina.
Wotumo kono ben 7 months to nyala dinno ngi wuluta in October men kana labe 20 sotola bari na family mbe ala tentule ma bake kabrin Lamin tata na family ani Lamin na family ibe ni denta ni toro lale aduye iñatilin na baakele fana ko ñina kewato kono
ñu ngi dégg tam ci ni ko Isaac netale ne moom yaayam ba tey nanguwuta sëy parce que bés bu mu eewoo rek mu ngi yaakaar ne dina dégg fuga ci buntaam te su ubbee bunta bi rek dina jàkkaarloo ak jëkkëram yàlla def nag ñun ñoo bokk tur moom it Peter la tuddoon Peter Mensah. yow depuis sa jëkkër bi mu génnee àddina ñaar fukki at léegi sëy nga am déet su sëyut lu tax sëyuloo ba tey.
man toog naa ba 6 years ma doog a sëy léegi maa ngi sëy.
ok foog ne yow soose nga bugg a laaka.
olof bi mooma yaa. nsiitale sanji wooro aftan naata naa futu.
xale bi naka la tudda ak jamono ji ñoo wax nii ci lum ne.
atomu Binta Tunkaralte.
Jigéen la.
sainte nga be school karambo ngota bita kan abe grade 10 nakata 11.
ñana la jàppale ci mbiri Binta.
TRRC ala story tartanu wolto tubab dole nata je wala ala story je suwana tata victim support TRRC because na nomba man taraje ana rafo yi jali ñin dindi ngu ba ma kumandi ñana la nomba balbul mbakala la school jolale. So tubabo ñi wala kala school ju fo say.
Binta musuta jógee school ñëw di la laaj mbiri papaam mu faaxe ko ci xej na lu ko moromam yi daan wax ci school bi.
kay aka ñinin ka fama la kay aka ñinin ka la.
Okay, all right, we don't have to delve deeper into that. Just finally, just in wrapping up, because we have to be out by 1:30 the hour, Isaac, if you can just join us for a second. I can fully understand the emotions. So you are now here in the Gambia on your first visit, looking for what?
We are here to seek justice, and justice to us is one, for the government to honor the recommendation by constituting the investigation team, the joint investigation team, to exhume the remains of our relatives. And then, number two, to adjust the reparation upward due to inflationary factors and then exchange rates. And then, number three, to prosecute Yahya Jammeh, his enablers, and his accomplices, so that they too will be thrown to jail. At least life imprisonment will be okay for us.
Okay, and since you've been here, what in terms of action, what have you done?
Okay, so far we've been to the General Assembly yesterday. Yeah, we met the chairman for the Human Rights Committee at the General Assembly. We've been to the Ministry of Justice, and we submitted a petition to them. Yesterday too, we did a dua and then a Christian prayer for the lost ones. And then I think we are advocating. We've spoken to the press. We've been to other
media houses.
And I think we want our voice to be heard. And I think I want to quote from what my first president, Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, said. He said, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. This is a test case for Africa. We have to use this. The joint investigation team comprises of Africans. We have to use that to prove to the international world that scientists are in Africa, and we can exhume remains of 20 years back, 2 decades. Let us prove to the world, it's a test case, that the black man is capable of managing its own affairs.
Isaac, thanks for talking to us this morning, and good luck.
Thank you.
Ñu dem nag ci Adama. Adama, lan yan kàddu nga bugg a gaaral nguur gi nga xam ne fi mu nekk ñu ngi laa déglu?
Nyanta lafta men fula Mensah kundaye wala mnyinti ko ayeng hati nga justice soto, because ndo lafta justice lela. Bari victim ole mun tolti, bari na victim ya Mensah kunda ama long ama amuta ama nyati lintolla. So kunu nga programme ol soto le nga letter fula Samba, Minister of Justice and National Assembly, pour isen na ko jibe nyamen tata badala nga Christian duwa ke je nga muslime duwa ke je, because ito lel dunta nyokono, so aketa ku fulati bar ko ni metale adiminta man kuma moy government la kuoto aman step tan na kuoto abukan na kuma fo. So hani bi ntol ba dani la niaje ka finti media to nkana ka si radio to laftale na kuma kan ka futama aka futa dunia be kono, because nin ka ke sango sang menketa be lonna nte na man ke media ti amanke victim center ti aneket wave mammo so to membe support la pour nga wuli nga lon ke mala ko la ngala ko kisikis ani number 1 Ghanaian wala yatin nante fango mbe finti kan mo be ba lon kan ko Gambian ole be nyin ko kono hanata la Ghanaian ol teje nyin Gambian dinkili ngo damma ala ko nyanta tinale nga support soto bari mammo soto men support ko Gambian ole mnyinta clean bulata nyin ko kono woto nanga makwe bari jama in August men ka organizing ke victim center aneket wave wole kante kumande ninyul nata jam fana ibukantu koma, because ikalo no continue nyul la ko be together, so you can samana nka singa diamu media to nsa fono lente diamu la media to bari fonga diamu media to, because ntele ke mam aduna man talajaw na la ran kiline fano keta ko nyinkata banjul atata banju ngata ya ares nyine keta tanyat, so akole yata mbulu bake hani so ma akole yata mbulu, because adingole be mbulu bungo kono, so sometimes akakole ya bakele akadiming, because dinno fa na nyanta father's love soto la, so ba batandire ngala system mo kono le still now. So ndol dal be Mensah kunda no mala melbe Mansakunda bala Mansakunda e mako ya nyati le molla ngana justice soto no justice sifa siatal jata kende ala karola psychology la karola support la karola school la karola ndolbe dama bintol manyana fola fenna nyimbanku kan ndole nyantalo na ko tollem victim multi bari why Gambia matandino ko tollem government matandino ko tollem victim multi anana ma fufango victim mol why adun tolmo banku dingol let.
Big question needing to be answered. We'll round this off coming back to you, Mariam. You hate to be called Mariama. It's a great name. Yeah, so the petitions that were handed over and, the next course of action, if you can just very quickly take us through that.
Okay, so like he said, the petition is in line with the call for action, in line with the TRC recommendation. So even though the government has enacted acts, which is the Special Prosecution Office Act, the Special Accountability Mechanisms Act, and now we have the Reparation Commission is also starting to be operationalized. So the petition is just an urgent call for action in line with what the recommendation is saying, because in the recommendation it's also said $34 million for the victims to be compensated. But actually looking at reparation holistically is not just focused on just monetary compensation. We cannot repay the 20 years that was lost from this family. We have to look at reparation in all the different kinds when it comes to medical, psychosocial, and all the different support that they actually need. And when you actually estimate the $34 million into dollar, you would realize out of how many victims, how sufficient would that be to actually support how many victims who has lost their loved ones in this massacre. So the petition is just advocating for a court for action to fast track, because 20 years is actually a long time, and still now there's still no closure. Because for the mother to be in denial is because she didn't also see the body of her husband who has actually passed. If the bodies and the remains were taken, then she would have been able to start her healing journey and see how best she can actually cope with the situation. But these remains were not returned. So they would actually say that maybe it did not really happen. So we're just actually advocating for the government. We know that, and we have to acknowledge that there are some steps already put in place. But how best can we fast track some of this step? Because victims are dying. The health of victims, they are deteriorating. Not how many people would be, because if they want to go through all the process to start up the court system, it's not a 1 year or 2 years thing. We're talking about realistically. All of these take processes. But for the meantime, what can we do to support the victims and the families who have lost their loved ones?
And what have you been doing to support particularly Adama? Because Adama feels left alone, abandoned.
We have actually been doing a lot, like she acknowledged the efforts of
let me say abandoned by the state.
Yes,
she actually except for NGOs like WAVE.
Yes, and that is why we have civil society to actually complement the efforts of the government. Because without civil society in this overall transitional justice process, I don't think that much processes or much effort, especially in the life and welfare of the victims, would have been enhanced.
Okay.
So she acknowledging the effort of WAVE also show how we have been supporting them. We also rely a lot on donor funding to be able to get this support, and states would be the one to actually sustain some of this intervention. So, I mean, we have a long way to go.
Fantastic.
And we have to also push in the best way that we can. Yeah. Thank you.
Mariam, thank you very much. Isaac, thank you again. And Adama, and you're listening to Coffee Time with Peter Gomez live on West Coast Radio.
Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent Jammeh si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta to dede. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Busel mu fine.
What?
Busel mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. Ak Wave. Bustle mu fine. Wave. Your money is yours.